Hello, beautiful people. I hope everyone is enjoying the holiday season. Today, we're getting into some political fray. Since it's been a little dry in these entertainment streets, I've been hanging out on X. And baby, the Cliff folks over there is going absolutely apeshit on Candace Owens. Y'all, for the last couple of months, I've been tuned in and locked in, waiting for the next episode of Candace Owens' podcast. I know, some of my subs don't care for Candace, but it's a bigger problem happening here. Could I say suppression of speech? Since Candace's investigation into the Charlie Kirk assassination, they've been turning her ass every which way but loose over there on X. I've watched grown men lose their shit because of Candace's questioning of the official narrative. Candace, with a voice once part of a movement and now at odds with it. A voice that asks questions in the loudness of our networked world. On Candace's last show that aired about a week ago, she had a gentleman that was a military veteran on her show, and they were discussing Fort Huachuca. And baby, all hell broke loose. I'm saying everybody came, all the political commentators came out the woodworks for Candace. So I just wanted to let my audience listen to Candace as she explained the attacks on her and as she explained further detail on, why she's investigating this Fort Huachuca. So I want you guys to sit back. It's a lengthy live. It's about an hour and a half. Maybe if you're cleaning up, washing the dishes, or just sitting back chilling, just go ahead and play this and listen to Candace as she explains from her perspective, along with other journalists that she added on her um, SpaceX Live. I think I'm saying that right, guys, okay? So sit back, get a drink, chill out, and listen to Candace as she explains. Public disclaimer: I don't think anyone should be attacked and insulted for questioning the FBI official narrative regarding a public assassination. I also don't agree with everything Candace has said or some of her views in the past. I personally think Candace is a great orator and a wonderful debater.
I just want to start by recapping everything that happened with Fort Huachuca. I think that's. Sorry, I'm going to add two more people here. Diligent, I'm going to add you. Nice to meet you. Add a speaker. Myron, I'm going to go ahead and add you. I'm going to add Ryan here. Okay, just going to do that for now, and then we can just get started. Okay. So yeah, the first thing I want to do is just to make sure that everybody understands what the Fort Huachuca story is and why people are so fired up about it. Because obviously, I appreciate that not everybody watches my podcast, and there has been just such an aggressive, I would describe it as a misinformation campaign. A lot of people that are chasing rabbits. It has nothing to do with what we discussed on the show. And I do think it's important for people to also have the clarity of how quickly this all unfolded. So I did create this little timeline, which I just jotted down because if I make one mistake, then the internet jumps down my throat. It's weird. When you hear how this all transpired, you're going to recognize that it all happened very quickly and very aggressively. So I have told the story on my podcast. I hate that. This is just the reality of how it happened. Okay. So it was a holy day of obligation, and I did my podcast. Obviously, we do not normally go to mass in the evenings on a Monday. I think it was Monday. I think it was Monday the 8th. And we went. I literally jumped off air my podcast, ran to mass. And for whatever reason, maybe because it was just like later in the day, I didn't do my usual prayer, meaning that I normally start my prayers with gratitude, what I'm grateful for, praying for everyone in the family. And this time, for whatever reason, I just went with just basically pleading for a missing piece and saying, essentially that everyone recognizes that there is something very wrong with this Charlie Kirk story, but I just feel like there's like a small piece of this thing missing. And I was just deeply praying for a missing piece. I just want you guys to know that was truly the backstory. I then go home after mass, I sit in my bed, and I open my laptop, and there are literally 50,000 emails in my tips box. That's the old box. That's not even more tips. That's the old inbox. And one just pops in, and it's from a woman, and she just writes, I really think that you should call my friend Mitch. He has a story that you're going to want to hear. Okay. I never just, and someone drops a number, randomly call them. Obviously, I usually email back and I'll say, please give me some indication of this or that. I don't know what came over me, but I was like, ha, would this be an answered prayer? And I pick up the phone and I call Mitch. And he's kind of startled. I don't think he was just maybe with this friend. And he's like, I can't believe I'm speaking to Candace Owens. And he then proceeds to tell me the story of how he was at Fort Huachuca Air Base dealing with an issue that happened 35 years ago, when he discovered a cartel tunnel. And he happened to, and I want to be very clear here because this is important, there were only two people that he mentioned to me on the phone, and he felt absolutely certain that he saw them. Okay. He said on the evening of the 8th, he saw who he then learned later on was Erica Kirk. He saw her at the Candlewood Inn and Suites on September 8th. She was with a younger guy who looked like he was in special forces. He talks about his watch. And the bigger thing for me was that the next day he said that he saw this meeting, that he accidentally stumbled upon what must have been a very important top brass meeting. Essentially described it as like there were 12 to 13 O6s, and you don't see that much unless it's a very important meeting. And he described the meeting in military terms. The way that I understood it was basically, this is like final hands on deck. We're about to go on, and there's going to be a mission. And he stumbled into this building by a long set of circumstances. He was going to get a coffee. He didn't realize that JTF had gotten back together. He struck up a conversation because he recognized the patch of the 10th Mountain Brigade. And eventually they tell him, oh, yeah, we're actually using this random offsite building. We're back together. It's now JTF Southern Border. And that's how he walked in. And at that moment, he was talking to people at the front desk. He saw Brian Harpole walking out of this meeting with somebody. And I'll tell you when we started talking about Mark Amadei, but he initially did not contact me about Mark Amadei or Cabot Phillips. I recognized Erica Kirk on September 8th, leaving the Candlewood Inn Suites on the base, and I recognized Brian Harpole on the 9th, the morning of the 9th. The meeting was concluding at 7:30 a.m. Now, obviously, because the September 9th, the way that he described it was, first and foremost, this is like, we're about to do a mission. It's the day before Charlie Kirk dies. There's been a lot of speculation about Brian Harpole. He definitively has lied about things which are on my list. He lied about what they did to prepare for Charlie speaking, kind of showed the messages. He was a bit weird about that. I was going, okay, that's really the most compelling piece for me. It's like Brian Harpole, because I'm running in my head, okay, obviously the Erica thing could be interesting, but that's on the 8th. Maybe Erica was with Dan Flood. I mean, she has security. It's Fort Huachuca. It's kind of in the Phoenix backyard. Maybe she's there for a different reason, picking something up. Her mother's sick. Her mother works in defense. Like, my mindset was just, the Brian Harpole thing is the most compelling piece for me because I think he's been acting weird. And obviously, I was not going to just assume that I should have him on the show. Before I went through some basic fact checks, I ran it up to some person that I trust very much, that is in government, that is in the military, asked him to vet the story. I mean, I was basically up all night dealing with this because I was going, oh my gosh, what if this is the answered prayer? And we are about to be able to assert definitively that Brian Harpole was there. So I did those sort of basic checks. And then it was December 9th. And I just told the story of what Mitch had told me. I did not mention Erica's name. That's very important because I did not, again, think that that was necessarily relevant to the meeting that had happened on the 9th. And I wanted to speak about Brian Harpole, and I just said it was a blonde girl. Um, Anyways, that's the 9th. On December 10th, is the very next day, is when Erica sat down with Harrison Faulkner on Fox News, and she addressed conspiracy theorists as sick and said that she wanted them to stop. And then suddenly I'm trending and people are like, well, she's basically saying that you need to stop. And I was like, okay, that's just weird. Then the next day on the 11th is when Barry Weiss used the snippet of the now infamous, stop, just stop, which the TikTokers went very crazy on. And I was like, okay, that is that was specifically obviously about me. It's like Barry Weiss said, the podcaster Candace Owens. And it kind of uh, backfired, I would say, on the internet. And suddenly, the next thing I knew, Erica and I had a date to meet on that Monday. So that was Thursday. That's the stop, just stop snippet. Friday, I had no show. Sunday, I want to tell you this part because this is important. On December 14th, I received a text message from Ian Carroll. I hope he is in this chat. I'd like him to jump in case I get anything wrong here. But the text message was to me and my producer, and he was like, hey, like, I have something for you guys that I need to discuss. It's pretty urgent. When I got around to calling Ian, he told me that basically he had received information from someone. He didn't want to give me the name of the person, and that definitively, like, Brian Harpole was preparing some huge lawsuit against me. And I was like, that's really weird. And I think he said like some big like Texas lawsuit. I don't know what but like basically it was like it's a big lawsuit and like, you're going to want to be careful talking about this. And I was like, okay, well, that just can't be accurate because that's not how lawsuits work. I know about lawsuits. And I said, I think someone's intentionally giving you bad information to try to scare me from talking about the Fort Huachuca thing anymore because I hadn't yet hosted Mitch to tell a story. But I had indicated that like I might do more with Mitch or I might pass him off to Ian Carroll. Next thing you know, Ian Carroll's getting a phone call and told that I'm about to get sued for mentioning Brian Harpole. So I thought that was like a little weird. And I basically said to Ian, I think, yeah, intentionally somebody gave you bad information. You first have to start with the cease and desist. And I don't factually know if what Mitch said was wrong. That ends. Monday is when Erica and I obviously had to sit down for 4.5 hours, and Turning Point kind of hosted a Q&A, which I thought was unfair and against the rules, I will say, because we agreed to not speak about anything. But that went on. Obviously, on the Tuesday, I came back and oh, actually, let's go back to the meeting with Erica, because this is also relevant. During that meeting, I did not bring up the Fort Huachuca thing because I, first and foremost, needed to continue vetting various aspects of it, but also I have Brian Harpole's number. And so I was just going to text Brian Harpole directly. But it is worth saying that during that interview, Erica gave me Brian Harpole's flights and said, like, I know that you mentioned that you thought Brian Harpole was at this interview. Here are his flights. Now, you guys would later see those flights because Alex Jones then mysteriously has these flights. I took the flights from her. I thought it was interesting because I didn't bring up Fort Huachuca and I wasn't intending to bring up Fort Huachuca, and I hadn't mentioned Erica on the show. And I looked at them and I said, "Oh, well, this is not an alibi because the meeting ended at 7:30 a.m. and planes that left Fort Huachuca were back in Texas. The SAM plane, as we know, went straight to Texas. And I think Brian Harpole's flight left at like 3:42 or something in the afternoon in Texas. So I was like, this does not conflict with the idea that he could have been leaving a meeting at 7:30 a.m. So it's a pretty short flight to Texas. So I said that, and that was it. But I said, but thank you for giving me this because now I can tell people that I have these flights, and also that he doesn't like yet have an alibi for that morning. I just wanted to mention that because I feel like that's important. Anyways, obviously, when we went back on air on Tuesday, I recapped I was tired and just kind of went through kind of the high points or the things that we had discussed. It was a very long meeting. On Wednesday, we broke the story about Charlie's car, and that we actually had exclusive photos of what the inside of the car looked like. On Thursday, I made the decision to have Mitch on my show. And the reason why we made that decision is because we were then working in the background to verify other aspects of his story, and we were able to do that. I now felt beyond confident. He had sent me all of his metadata. He had sent me, as you guys already saw, his ID cards, his former passports, his new passports. He even sent me, now I can't say that this Mexican person was in the cartel, but his story was that he was being hunted by the cartel. He certainly had a like court documents documenting that a Spanish person had broken into his home and whatever had happened. So I believed him. I believed his story. I knew that he was a Green Beret. Like I told you, I verified that information right away. And I knew that he had stumbled upon this meeting and he thought this is why they were pulling him aside. They may have thought something else, but it was substantially true. Everything he said was substantially true. Whether or not he saw Brian Harpole, I don't really know, right? Now, of course, the decision to have him on, I was aware that I could not say to him. I felt that that would have been super inauthentic if I was like, hey, tell your story, but like, let's not talk about the fact that you think 100% that you saw Erica. Like, that would have just been inauthentic. And I feel like people know that, I don't know, you guys would have just like sussed that out in 4 seconds. So I understood, obviously, that we were opening a can of worms because people were going to be compelled, obviously, by the fact that potentially Erica Kirk was on the base the evening before, if you will, on September 8th. But again, my main thing was Brian Harpole. During that time, as we were vetting his story, he described the congressman. He thought he was pretty certain that it was a congressman of some description. And he described him what he looked like, glasses, about the age, and he said the height was 5'9". So we were sending him photos of congressmen that we thought could fit the bill, just so you guys know this. And he was like, no, 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 no. We sent him Amadei, and he's like, this person looks very familiar. Like, this could be the person. Like, have you looked into his story? Like, do you think that this could be the guy? Like, this is the first person that really looks like the guy. And he said, is he 5'9"? And I Googled that and it said he was 5'9". I actually think Google's wrong on that. I think his height is wrong. I will say that now. But it's important for you to know that he did not initially come to us with Amadei. We sent him photos. It was just Erica and Brian Harpole. Okay, so we have him on, obviously, and he says both of the names. And what happened thereafter is what I can only describe as like an explosion. I get contacted from somebody who's in DC, and they were very concerned and thought maybe somebody was feeding me bad information. And I was kind of interested in the phone call, not going to name the person, but was basically like, worried about your security and things like that. And I was like, I think we're good. Like, we're just kind of vetting the story. Then on the 20th, and this is very interesting, these two YouTubers, Valhalla and Paramount Tactical, reach out to Mitch. And they're being super nice to him. And they're saying, or one of them said, and I don't want to mix them up, but we have the video of it because Mitch is predisposed to paranoia. And he recorded them. And I'm going to drop the conversations. I'm happy to drop them after this live. They're so nice to him. This is on December 20th. And they're not questioning whether or not he was in the special forces. They're not saying anything weird. And they're actually saying to him that I may be under foreign influence. And I'm like, okay, these guys are clearly not good guys. Or actually, the 20th is when he first told me that they had reached out to him and wanted him on his podcast. It might have been the 21st that they called him. I'll clear that up. But between the 20th and the 22nd is when they are suddenly calling him, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're just concerned about Candace. Okay, yeah, and you're gonna see in a couple of days he loses his mind and suddenly speaking to exes and baby mamas like he's Jerry Springer, but that was the nature of their phone call. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. I don't know these guys. And then on the 22nd, I get another phone call from Ian Carroll. Oh, he's here. I'm going to add you, Ian. Add a speaker. I get another phone call from Ian Carroll, and this time Ian is like totally freaked, freaked as in like very concerned, because obviously like I have a good relationship with Ian Carroll, and to some degree he respects Valhalla. And he's like, look, I have this friend who's in the military. He has a YouTube channel, and he basically runs me through, and he's like basically saying that he wants to talk to me. And it was kind of said to me in a way that was like, if you don't kind of take this rope, and jump off of this Mitch train, what's going to come out about Mitch is going to be explosive, and you're going to go down on the ship. That's essentially the vibe that Valhalla was giving to Ian Carroll, and basically kind of demanding to get on the phone with me. And I was like, and then he starts talking about, first he said stolen valor. He was never a Green Beret. I was like, he absolutely was a Green Beret. I sent that up the chain in the government. That's just not true. And it felt to me like they were clearly being quite aggressive with Ian on the phone, demanding to speak to me, demanding that I allow them onto my platform, talking about his ex-wives. I was like, I don't care about any of this. And I said to Ian, this seems to me like they're trying to distract me with stupid stuff. If he has something that is concrete that Mitch somehow defrauded me or lied and did definitively was not a Green Beret, then please just have him email it to me. And I said, and if he emails that to me, I will deal with it immediately. And I also made it clear to Ian that, because they were like, oh, then she could get in trouble for fraud because she raised money for this guy and he wasn't even a Green Beret. I was like, first off, he never asked me to raise money for him. So the idea that he was doing this to defraud me for money, that came out naturally when I was live. I said I would do a give, send, go because I said people were going to start digging up things. Like I just had a feeling like I thought it would be other people, but I just felt like, oh, let's like raise money for him. He had a tough life, whatever. And I had that court paperwork of what he was going through. So that was natural. And not only that, but the very next day, which I will show on my show this week, Mitch sent me an email the day after I started the Give, Send, Go. The morning after, he sent me and Skylar an email and said, thank you so much for raising money, but I do not want to accept this money from you. And he was very self-deprecating. He was like, I'm just a fat, ugly man, and I just wanted to help, and I don't deserve this. Like, I don't deserve this from the public. And then I called him and I was like, Mitch, this is kind of stressful. Like, I don't want to figure out how to like give people back all this money. And he was like, how about this? If the tip that I gave you proves fruitful, like if it's actually Brian Harpole or if it's Erica, then I will take the money. Otherwise, I don't want it. So he was never trying to get money from me. That whole, he's a fraud. He was trying to steal. Like none of that is real. It's just completely made up. And again, I will drop the receipts of exactly when he emailed me the morning after. So yeah, that's what I said to Ian. And I was like, I just don't care about anything about his background at all. I want to know if they have anything about him not being Green Beret. I will obviously post an update and say this guy completely tricked me with his metadata and everything. They were unwilling to do that. They did not want to do that. And so that's when they started, I guess, talking to his estranged son from 20 years ago. I don't know. I don't know because I knew that it was an intentional trying to pull you, like they want to bring you down in mud so that you don't go forward and you have to just focus on the facts. So that is the backstory of Fort Huachuca. We all then know what happens next. And Alex Jones jumps into the foray. He's talking about Mitch's history. He's putting out all this information. Mark Amadei did, I do want to say as an update, I scrubbed through looking for roll calls and then somebody indicated to me that they see him in his chair. He missed the roll call for some reason, but early on in the video, I agree, it does look like Mark Amadei. So that might be, it could be him. And we're looking for somebody else who looks like Mark Amadei. And I also think his height is wrong on Google. I don't think he looks like he's 5'9". So Mark Amadei might be completely like off the hook on that. And again, he wasn't the person that Mitch initially said we gave him that photo. Now, the Cabot Phillips thing is also very interesting. I don't really care about like, Mitch's estranged relationship with his son. Like I'm not interested. I'm not Maury. I'm not here to like bring families back together. But I tried to debunk him. I thought that was very easy to be able to debunk him with Cabot Phillips because Cabot Phillips, he has a daily show at the Daily Wire. I think he does it maybe 3 times a week or something. But the Morning Wire, obviously, I worked the Daily Wire, and I was like, well, that's pretty simple. If you're saying that Cabot Phillips was here in Arizona, he actually lives here in Nashville and he has a show. Let me just go find him on his show. Well, it also turns out that Cabot Phillips, from September 4th all the way through to September 10th until September 11th, took a vacation and he wasn't on his show. So when I realized that, I did the right thing. I messaged Cabot Phillips. I sent him 2 messages asking if he could just answer whether or not he was there because I don't want to throw like any shade his way. I had sent him, just to get to the Cabot Phillips bit, I had sent Mitch multiple photos of guys like this person. I thought maybe Dan Flood this. He's like, no, 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 no. I gave him no context, but saw that Cabot Phillips was trending and I had no idea he was one of Erica's exes. I send him the photo and he's like, that's the guy. That's the guy that was with her. And again, I'm now relying on Mitch's memory. I don't know what his facial recognition software is. If it's like mine, it's terrible. Okay. I can meet someone like 5 times and still not place their faces. But if it was my husband, he can meet someone once and he's like, that's him. We saw him at the airport in New Jersey. You don't remember. And I'm like, of course I don't remember. Some people have it, some people don't. So I just wanted to try to confirm it. Cabot Phillips did not respond to me. Okay, you can say he's not required to respond to me. That's fine. I'm giving you the information. I would probably respond, like, just because it's such an easy thing to do. But that was interesting. I was compelled by that. He said that he thought the person was potentially a pilot or would have had pilots in his family because Mitch said, I'm a watch guy, and I recognized his watch, and it's a watch that pilots wear. It's digital. It had a yellow button, whatever, whatever. Well, there's never been anything publicly about Cabot being in the military. So I was like, that seems wrong to me. And then sure enough, I dug up a post that his grandfather was I don't know, like awarded high honors in the military and was an Air Force guy. So I was like, okay, well that's another like interesting thing that's happening. I would like to look further into that. Now, in terms of people saying that Erica doesn't owe you an alibi. I didn't ask Erica for an alibi. So when suddenly I realized that Paramount Tactical was speaking with Andrew Colvett and she was providing an alibi to Andrew Colvett, well, then suddenly now, if you're going to provide an alibi, then let's provide an alibi. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm happy to just like communicate whatever that alibi is. I never demanded it privately. I didn't demand it in her face. And I still don't, even if she had said, yeah, I was at Fort Huachuca, I was at a hotel and I was dropping off a package, that doesn't necessarily put her at the meeting the next day. But Mitch did say that the person who he thinks looks like Cabot Phillips was at that meeting the next day. So obviously that's interesting. Like, obviously, if we're investigating this, we should just, like, we could check it off the list and move on. I have messaged Brian Harpole, just so you guys know, thus far, I want to say 4 times, at least 3 times, asking him. Again, we can't say he was willing to give his flights, but doesn't want to also just give his metadata or a picture or something they took a text message at that time to clear his name. You either want to give an alibi or you don't want to give an alibi. You either are saying, I don't owe you an alibi, I don't want to answer at all. But if you're going to do something halfway, then you should provide a full alibi. Now, I will say that I had some communication. I did message also once the thing exploded with Andrew Kovac because he's just getting on my nerves. Like, really, I have been so nice in terms of what I have told the public about things that Andrew Kovac told me. He's starting to like a little bit play with the bull, and we're getting real close. We're getting real close to me just saying, if you guys really think that I have not been fair, you will really recognize how fair I have been if he keeps pressing me. And I felt very pushed by that Paramount Tactical thing. These people are lunatics, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, send me a text and I could have shut it down immediately. But you're like, I'm assuming you're also the person talking to Andrew. I mean, speaking to Alex, because Alex did say on his show that he spoke to Turning Point USA people and like he had Brian Harpole's flight. So it's pretty obvious. It seems like they're working behind the scenes, and that's annoying me. It's annoying me a lot, actually. Um, Anyways, so once I saw that Andrew Colbert was speaking with Paramount Tactical and being, I don't know, I guess sort of denigrating what we were doing, I then was like, okay, let me text someone more responsible at Turning Point USA and ask, hey, do you guys want to give me an alibi? So I put Andrew Colbert and the COO in a chat, and I was like, hey, just figured we could have a direct line and you can just give me Erica's alibi and I'd be happy to publish it because I'm not interested in like throwing mud on someone's name. I just want to get to the truth. Um, that conversation was had yesterday and they did give me an indication of what she was doing, which was making dinner for Charlie. I have asked for, metadata to show that it was, Charlie that she was texting, and I'm still waiting for that. So the last conversation I had with them, I think that was yesterday, Sunday at around 1 o'clock p.m. ish, my time, Central, I think, and they said that Erica got busy with the kids and that they were going to get me something. So I'm still waiting on that. Just so you guys know that I have been responsible and speaking to the people directly trying to get the information. Now, obviously, Sam, I very much agree with you, and I'm going to let you jump in here. Actually, let's start with Harrison because I would love to hear his side. I think it's for the most part, he's done a lot of great work. He has not been feeding us a fed slop and telling us that Charlie had a magic neck, and it's good to hear from people who disagree with us. So, Harrison, if you want to unmute yourself and jump in, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I guess my whole thing is why does this meeting even matter? Like, what is the actual claim that's being made here? That's been my confusion the whole point,
Yeah,
the whole time is like, okay, let's say that there's absolute proof, photographic evidence that everything that Snow says is true. Like, who cares? I mean, what does that prove? What is the actual accusation? Who do you think was conspiring with who to do what?
yeah,
And I think obviously the name of the episode was, the day before Charlie Kirk was murdered. The insinuation is that this was a assassination planning meeting,
yeah,
which I don't even see any evidence of that. And then people I'm arguing with online are saying, no, this has nothing to do with the assassination.
yeah.
So yeah, I guess if the space is why this matters, why does Fort Huachuca even matter? Like, what is the claim being made? I still
Yeah.
don't even understand that.
So it matters because why would Brian Harpole be on Fort Huachuca at all? Right? It matters because he's giving an alibi, which means he doesn't want to be associated. Like, it could have easily not mattered. Kind of, to speak to your credit, he could have been like, "Yeah, I was at Fort Huachuca with my brother, and my brother's in the military. I was dropping off some food." Uh, Okay, like that could have been then suddenly a dead end. That would have been nothing. Now, because Mitch had described this as a top secret meeting in an off-site building and had described this as top brass at the Pentagon and said that these sorts of meetings, and I am forgetting the military term, are when you're just about to embark on like a mission. I know I really uneducated, but military guys will sound better saying that. It was compelling. Like, okay, like I said, Brian Harpole was acting funny. He's been acting weird. He's been telling verifiable lies, and he cared enough to present an alibi, meaning he didn't want people to think he was there, right? So if you have to give someone an alibi, it's because you don't want people to think that you're there. An alibi is not needed if there's nothing to hide. So
Well,
that's why it matters. I think that's why it matters. And this reaction, rather than being forthcoming, is why it suddenly feels like, okay, this is important because no one's acting normal. No one's just like, oh yeah, cool, he was there. Like it also is, as we have now learned, it's an intel base. He was telling the truth about exactly what building it was. I didn't name the building on my show because I wasn't sure if that would be like a national security problem, but it just happened to be that JTF was borrowing that offsite building, and it was supposed to be a top secret meeting for those purposes. Somebody that was involved in blacking out the windows had sent us a tip. Again, it's how people are reacting to the meeting that lets us know that it's important.
okay. I mean,
Now,
I guess.
regarding the hotel, I never said it was important. Like I said, my perspective was there's 1,000 different reasons that she could have been at that base. Her mother has a contract or had a contract, has a contract with the DoD. Erica has been open about her mother's ties to the military in the past. She actually did an interview and said that she moved to Arizona because her mother had a contract with the military. So again, weird thing is when Andrew's like, Erica wasn't in some fort, as if he's never heard of Fort Huachuca. His brother is in the military. His brother is a Captain Curtis Colvett. His first cousin is Captain Robert Colvett. So that kind of a language is why I've named this, why it suddenly really matters, right? It was sort of one episode. I didn't exactly dedicate a whole series to it. The reaction has been so almost like violently obsessed that the public is now going, oh, okay, well, it feels like there's something here. I think that's just sort of our natural instinct.
Okay. I mean, I think if you're saying that somebody is somewhere and they weren't there, then providing the alibi is not in and of itself suspicious. If the alibi is not confirmed, I guess you can be suspicious of that. But again, I still there's still not an answer. Like, okay, let's just say you're right. Let's just say that absolutely they were there.
Yeah,
What does that prove? What is the accusation? Because what it sounds like, and I mean, what the insinuation obviously is that this was a planning meeting for the assassination, and the people there had pre-knowledge of the assassination and were therefore in on it. So I think that if you are making that accusation, which in effect you are, right, you're in effect saying, okay, Erica Kirk and the head of TPUSA security were at this pre-assassination
I didn't
planning
say Erica
meeting.
was there, so you guys have to stop repeating that. It's Erica was never at that meeting, and that's another thing. I've never said Erica was at the meeting. Mitch has never said Erica was at that meeting. There was never an indication she was at that meeting. He did not see her on September 9th. It was Brian Harpole who was at that meeting. To my knowledge, Brian Harpole, I don't know why he would be at an intel base at a meeting with top brass. And what I can tell you is if he was there, Turning Point doesn't know he was there. According to Erica and Justin Strife, who I sat down for 4.5 hours. So if Turning Point has him on their payroll, and they've outright purchased a security firm and they don't know what he's doing on an intel base, yeah, it matters. And we don't need to know the conclusion to follow the clues here that something's wrong. So that there's this fashionable thing where people are always like, well, what's the final thing you're saying? Well, we don't know the final thing that we're saying because that's not how an investigation works.
Well,
Like
you
we
you
have to
can.
follow the thing that's the lie. We have to follow, okay, this guy said he was here, he wasn't. Well, what does that mean? I don't know what it means yet. I don't know what it means yet. What I'm saying is the reaction to this is not normal. Brian Harpole shouldn't be on an intel base if Turning Point doesn't know about it. And he's presented an alibi that doesn't actually cover where he was, but he felt it necessary to give an alibi. So I don't know, interesting, and I think we have a right to think. So um, if
Okay,
that's
so
cool, I'm just gonna let somebody else jump in right here. Just I think is that okay, Harrison? Or do you want to just have a final thought there before?
sure. I just okay. So Erica Kirk was not there. You don't believe that Erica Kirk was there at all.
She wasn't there
So
on the 9th. She was not seen on the 9th. It's not about whether I believe she was there. She wasn't seen on the 9th. That was never said. He never said it. I never said it.
okay, but
Yeah.
she was seen on the 8th.
Yes. And not
Okay.
at the Intel meeting, not in the Intel, uh, headquarters or whatever building they were using. She was not seen with the top brass, nothing like that.
Okay,
So
so the pre-assassination planning meeting happened on the morning of the 9th. She was seen in the area on the afternoon of the 8th, but those were unrelated. She just happened to be
they are
there.
related because of the person she was with, who he
Uh-huh.
believes looks like Cabot Phillips. He did see that person at the meeting on the 9th.
Okay, so you are saying that basically these people were there to conspire to kill Charlie Kirk, right? I
You
mean,
can keep saying what you're saying, or you can listen to what I'm saying. But if you want to just say what you're saying, just say it and don't put it behind you're saying. Just say, hey, I'm Harrison and I'm saying, right? That's easier, I think. So what are you
okay,
saying?
hi, I'm Harrison. What I'm saying is
Yep.
that in 2 months, nobody is going to remember the name Mitch Snow or Fort Huachuca, and this is not going to go anywhere, and that this is a nothing burger. I just think it's an absolute nothing burger that's not going to lead anywhere. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But you can prove me wrong. But again, my whole thing has always been that this devolves into this question of like, was he there? Was he not there? And the whole time I'm just going, what does it matter? If the conclusion is that he's a complete liar, it's the exact same outcome as proving that these people were actually there, because so far you haven't connected it to the assassination in any way whatsoever, except that maybe this guy thinks that he saw people that are around Charlie Kirk. And my whole point is, obviously the insinuation is, I mean, again, when you're saying Erica Kirk was there, but not actually there on the day, but in the area, but not because of the assassination meeting, but it's like, okay, clearly the insinuation is that these people had something to do with the assassination, and you can make that claim or not, or pretend that you are, or pretend that you're not, but you obviously are. But like, that's all. I don't really care about
Okay.
any of that.
Thanks,
But
Harrison.
you have to.
Thank you. Let's skip somebody. I think,
Okay.
just for you to say something clearly and clearly doesn't make it clear or obvious.
Okay.
I'm following this investigation. Charlie was assassinated. I'm going to take every step and I'm going to say what I know at the exact time that I know it. So I cannot say that it was definitively an assassination meeting. I can say that I have a feeling about this meeting, that if it is in fact Brian Harpole there and he's lying about that, then that's not good. It's not a good thing because there's no reason to lie unless you have something to hide. But thank you so much for your feedback. I appreciate that, and hope to speak in the future. I am going to allow Ian. Did you want to jump in here?
I'd be happy to, but depends on what you want to talk about. I had to jump in late. I was in a different meeting when I got some text messages of like, yo, get in here.
Oh yeah, I was just mentioning. I was giving the timeline and just telling people when you and I had the call, and you were kind of just trying to give me a heads up about, Valhalla. I think it was Valhalla, right? That wanted to speak with me about Mitch and that his backstory was stolen valor. I wasn't sure if I got something wrong, but I thought it was Valhalla, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of people that have been trying to get a hold of you. I'm like a regular conduit for people trying to get a hold of you. You know how it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, definitely there's been it was once things started to fire up, people were starting to talk about like what they saw as holes in Mitch's story.
Yeah,
And it's been very interesting to watch how that has evolved on channels like Paramount Tactical especially.
yeah, and now we are. I don't know if it's evolving or devolving,
Yeah. I do
but
want to say though, real quick though, is that I was expecting Valhalla to go way more off the rail. Like he definitely voiced his opinion when he did his episode with all of his evidence. He definitely came out hot and voiced his opinion. But I actually was pleasantly surprised by how Valhalla did that in the sense that based on what he knew and the source that he had, he condemned what he saw as what Mitch was and what Mitch's actions were. But he also didn't like I felt glad that he didn't overstep himself and kind of blow up on you too hard and try to like over extrapolate what he was showing. But I also have been watching what other people have been bringing out about Mitch since then that seem to make me question whether what Valhalla had was the whole story. So I'm just kind of sitting back and
yeah, and
watching all
that
the
was also
evidence.
another thing. I think that's a good point, Ian. Is like people that were pretending that they were speaking to like his like baby mamas and his son that he hasn't spoken to since he was 2, by the way. So if he hasn't spoken to him since he was 2, the implication is his son knows his father through his mother. That's like what happens when you don't speak to your father
Yeah.
since you were 2. But it is interesting that they didn't do any background checks on the women. Like
Yep.
who then I saw, and I didn't want to again get dragged down in the mud, but like they had, had accused a few men, but they stayed away from that. It was like, no, 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 like this is what's out there about Mitch. And that's why I was saying to you, like, I was like, this feels to me like a way to distract from what I basically am trying to do, which is I feel like I'm the only one that's actually trying to debunk Mitch, like
Yeah.
going to Brian Harpole, going to Turning Point USA and saying, hey, like, give me something. I'm happy for this to be wrong. Whereas everyone else seems to just be trying to distract. I do want to let's do Ryan and then Isabella, and then we'll do Diligent Denizen. I think that's right. Yeah,
Diligent, actually, his app kicked him down. You should re-add him.
I did.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Candace, I'm just jumping in here listening right now, so I'm going to hang out for a minute and then
Cool.
I'll jump in at the end.
Cool. Awesome. Isabella, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me up here. It's been a lot of debate going on with this, and I think Harrison did bring up some good points, and I've been really interested in the drama between you and Evan, and I'm curious, so Morgan and Evan are friends, and did she just randomly reach out to you and let you know this? Because that's a little shady on her part with Evan.
No, she didn't. She actually did it by accident. So,
Oh,
she, I don't know her at all. I think she's had a pretty good opinion about stuff, and she's definitely kind of been one of the early people on saying how she was treated when she started talking about Israel. And so I think what happened was we should definitely separate Evan from Israel, Evan from Morgan. Morgan kind of, it seemed weird because it was like nothing happened, and then they both kind of wrote these statements, like, and you don't actually have to, break up with anybody on X, that you can just like just not agree with something. I don't know. I never feel like the need to write like a very long statement if I disagree with something, a commentator that I'm listening to. I'm like, kind of like, like I listen to,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I'm never like, for a long time, I've really loved Matt Walsh, but his take, it's like, I don't know. So I think it seemed a little extra to people on the outside that were looking
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it was at the same time. And so I messaged her and I was like, I follow you. You could just message me if you thought some part of your story wasn't real. And I sent her some docs about the cartel person. I was like, he sent me so many docs that like his story is real. Like, I don't, this happened. Here are the medals he received. I obviously did my due diligence. And she said, thank you. And then she was sending me a clip of, it was just a clip of Paramount Tactical. And
Hmm.
I think she was sending it because she was like, oh, look what his son is saying. But actually, I found it interesting because the son then confirmed the story, like that he was on Fort
Hmm.
Huachuca Air Base. And she didn't realize that when she screen recorded, her text messages were coming in from Evan. And he was
Oh
like
my
saying what he was going to
gosh.
post. So I think it was just honestly an innocent mistake. But I was then like, okay, it looked weird that you both posted this. And now it looks like you're kind of coordinating it. And I think people felt it was coordinated because it's not a natural thing to do. Now,
Yeah.
Evan, the reason I say I would separate him is just because like, he's just lying. Like he's like this has been debunked. It hasn't been debunked. He's like defending Alex Jones and saying, "Oh, Alex Jones did say that you met your husband through PJW." I'm like, "No, he didn't say that." So he seems like he's being intentionally dishonest about stuff. She kind of just made one statement. Timing was a bit weird. Yeah, that's kind of how that happened.
Interesting. Okay. And then something else, like with what Evan is claiming, it kind of just reminds me of, there's a man that's coming into prominence, and then you see a bunch of women come out, me too. It's like, okay, maybe he's not correct, maybe he's lying, but he does seem to have more evidence supporting what he's saying than these
Right.
random disgruntled women. So I'm not saying that it's incorrect, that they're wrong, but I feel like we should be remembering that, hey, this is what these like women do, and the government will get behind them and kind of push them to say these Me Too things to discredit people. So
Right. And the thing is and correct me if I'm wrong, but like there were no convictions. So it feels like we're
mm,
getting involved in somebody's divorce and somebody's like, man, like it's just not my business.
it's
What he's
always
going through the
messy.
son is not my business. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to say that I don't care, but I don't care. I care about
Yeah.
who killed Charlie Kirk. I care about whether what he said he saw in Fort Huachuca is real or not. And every other piece of his story checked out. Like I got the military police report. So this just feels like mud.
Yeah.
And look, like I said to Ian, I said, look, if your buddy Gary wants to do like, becoming Mitch 9 seasons, let him do it. Everybody has to follow like what is their passionate life. And I was like, I just personally don't care. And so I encourage everybody who is feeling passionately against Mitch to go down that rabbit hole. I am focused on what happened that day, and thus far, nothing Mitch has said to me has not checked out. And even they won't even admit that they lied about some stuff in the past. Like when Ian was contacted, they were like, it's stolen valor. He wasn't a Green Beret. And then they like casually admitted on their show, okay, no, he was a Green Beret. But I'm embarrassed he was a Green Beret because look at these female and their allegations, but we're not going to mention all the allegations that exist with these women. Like that just feels like, it does feel like Me Too. And I'm just
Yeah.
not interested in it. Morgan just actually jumped on. So I do want to add her as a speaker. And Morgan, you sort of missed maybe some of this, but I did just sort of run people through what happened and kind of said, like, I kind of view what you and Evan did to be different. And, I think for everybody, it was just sort of the timing of you guys, like, and the style of needing to announce it, I think was a bit different. And I think that's why you kind of got the reaction that you did. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to have the floor and say what you wanted to. Morgan?
Oh, hi. I didn't know
Hi.
that you were talking to me. I'm sorry. How are you?
Yeah,
How is
good. How
everybody?
are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for giving me the floor because there's been so much freaking drama the last couple of days, and everybody I feel like has been trying to pit us against one another for some reason. And I keep reiterating, I have no issues with Candace. I'm still 100% on board with the investigation. I have my reservations about Mitch, and I feel like I should be able to voice those concerns. And I know that a lot of people don't care about his past or his history, or I don't even want to say only his history, because currently it's my understanding that he does have open cases. But when we're looking at somebody's credibility, how can we find them credible if the only thing that we have to take is their word for something? And right now it's he said, she said. He said that he saw people there and we can only take his word for it. And when you have every single person in his life, not only the exes but his children, who he's never had custody of any of them, they all say the same thing, that he's a pathological liar. I have trouble trusting an individual like that. And I just want to make sure that we stay on track in finding out what happened to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and so I think what I would offer back is that's what we have been doing. So rather than speaking to his son, I contacted people on the base. Like, okay, he said that somebody named Neff, which is what he said initially in contacting me, Captain
Mhm.
Neff was the one who questioned him. So rather than speaking to his son from 22 years ago, I think the people would say, why don't you speak to somebody who's on Fort Huachuca base now and see if there's a Captain Neff there? And that's what we did. And we confirmed that Captain Neff and the 10th Brigade was there. He said it was in an offsite building, a JTF offsite building. We spoke to people at the base and they told us this is the exact building. Here's where it is in the map. And they are borrowing the space. He told us that this incident happened and the bomb dogs were called. So I made an effort and successfully got the police report. That's how we verify whether or not he's a pathological liar, is by verifying what he said, right? And so that's why, as I said before you jumped on, I reached out to the people that were involved. I reached out to Brian Harpole 3 times. He wanted to give an alibi in the sense of like giving flights for 3:42 that afternoon. Okay, so what's stopping you from giving us what you're doing at 7:30 a.m., right? Like that kind of is what's weird. It's like you give half an alibi that doesn't matter, but you don't want to give the full thing. You don't want to just message me and say, hey, just so you know, that wasn't me. So that's what we're actually doing, is trying to verify the last thing, which is just like really his memory. He did tell the truth. He told the truth about everything that happened that morning. And so the last thing is, does he have a good facial memory? And thus far, we've not been able to, and I am in the process, as I said, of speaking with Turning Point USA. We haven't yet gotten a clean answer from people who have indicated that they do want to give an alibi, right? Because Andrew Colvett is messaging Paramount Tactical with an alibi. Well, I'm your girl. I'm the only one I think that's trying to debunk Mitch. Like, because I'm like, give me your alibi and I will post it. So yeah, I think
I
that's
guess,
kind
I
of.
guess my concern is like, okay, so if they don't provide any alibis, then what happens? Does this just stay open ended and then it keeps being the main focus?
Well, they did. That's the point, and that's why this is now. That's why I named this. Why it suddenly really matters, right? So if they had like kind of stayed out of it, and we're like, well, I'm not even going to answer because it's so stupid, then we're like, okay, well, maybe he's just wrong, and that would be what it was. He would just be wrong. He wouldn't be a liar because he was where he said he was, and the people that were there, and Captain Neff was whatever. But they did give an alibi, so they do care, right? They cared enough to give it to like obscure YouTubers, which is kind of random. Like it's like, okay, why are you wheeling and dealing? Like, if Andrew Colbert did not get caught live orchestrating an alibi, it shows that Erica cared because she's showing her metadata. So wouldn't the common sense thing to be, if you care that much, rather than going through obscure YouTubers, like, wouldn't you just go direct to Candace and be like, hey, I saw you did an episode on this. Like, here's the information you're looking for. They all have a direct line to me. I would have published it immediately.
Right. I wonder if say let's Erica does provide something, are people going to be are they going to accept that from her?
I would, and I would end it. Like, I would. That's like, my goal is not to look stupid, right? So like, if she gives me like an alibi and she's like, here's where I was, like, why would I not just instantly be like, hey, here, like, it wasn't her. Thanks, Mitch. Like, it was a different blonde. Like, we've been very open to that, and I said that 1,000 times on the show. You either have really good memory when you see faces, or you have a bad memory like I do when I see faces. I don't know Mitch, so I don't know, but he was pretty detail oriented about the watch and little things. And I think beyond anything else, the reaction when Andrew Colvett is wheeling and dealing behind the scenes, it then makes things really compelling, right? If he didn't get caught on that live, I probably would be neutral. I mean, I did one episode on this. Everybody's acting like I've done like becoming Brigitte. You know what I mean? Like, we've been investigating the Charlie thing. We've covered so many things. I do one episode on Mitch, and everyone's like, no, like, we gotta talk to his high school classmates. We gotta talk. It's like, dude, like, like, everybody calm down. I'm getting threats of lawsuits in the background. So like, Ian was like, I gotta talk to you before your next episode, is what his text was, because they were putting pressure on him to get me to stop reporting on this. They didn't want me to even interview Mitch. So I just find that to be compelling. Like, what is this panic about? Especially because you could end it in 4 seconds by just messaging me and being like, here you go.
Yeah, well, they never are forthcoming. I mean, that's the problem with Turning Point this far.
Yeah.
And they could put a lot of things to rest, but they keep gaslighting. So
Yeah.
hopefully they do. I still
I
don't
hope so
trust
too.
Mitch, but that's just where I'm at with it. And yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's fine. Yeah, and I want to say, like, I'm totally chill with that. Like, by the way, like, if I was running like the Bachelor show, I would get it. Like, but I'm not asking people to marry Mitch. I'm asking people to trust me enough to have done my due diligence to tell you that he was where he says he was. And
I
that,
believe, I do
yeah.
want to interject and
And
say, I do
so,
believe that he's there, that he
but
was there.
what
I
I
mean,
can't figure out for what other reason, because he didn't ask to come on my show. He didn't ask me for money. Like, he literally had his friend send me an email saying, like, this is something that you should know. And then I asked him to come on the show, and then I randomly live said, I wanted to raise money, and then he, which you missed, Morgan, said to me, I don't want the money, the very next morning, and said, if the tip ends up working and it helps you solve the murder of Charlie, then sure. But I don't, I'm not in this for money. I'm just like a fat old ugly guy. So like, the whole idea of him doing this for money or doing this for fame just doesn't jive with the facts of how it all came about. So for me, obviously, I'm the one that's in the center dealing with him. Yeah, do I think he's like paranoid? Do I believe that he probably hasn't been like the number one father in life? Sure. That's just not my business. It's just genuinely not my business.
yeah, I don't know. I try to look at things from a biblical lens, and you have to judge people by their fruit. And if all your fruit is rotten, then I have trouble believing anything that you have to say.
Yeah, but I also think that you should judge the women the same way, you know, because they
Yeah,
had
but if they're
backgrounds
all, if
too.
there's if everybody's saying the same thing and it's just
Yeah.
one person, like you're not the victim.
I didn't say it was big. I'm just saying that, like,
No,
if
no, I'm
that
sorry,
that's
not
like the
you,
you
him.
know where I'm at on the Harvey Weinstein stuff. Like, there were like 3,000 women, and I don't think he raped a single one. So I don't accept that argument. Like, I think we just disagree on the Me Too
Yeah,
stuff.
but he's like a nobody. That's different than Harvey Weinstein.
Oh, I just think, I don't know. I just like to hear both sides of a story when it comes to like allegations against men, whether they're famous or not. I just think it's like, I'm pretty like even on that stuff. I always have to hear both sides, but like, I didn't even want to care. I didn't want to hear Mitch's side about his ex-wife. I didn't want to hear her side about him. It's just not my business. Um, but thank you, Morgan. I hope that clarifies everything. And like, I'm glad that you're a part of the conversation, and you have every right not to believe Mitch.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you. We'll see what happens.
yeah, we'll see. Mel, would you like to jump into the foray?
Yes, thank you so much for having me real quick. So I just want to say, I get everybody's kind of hesitation with Mitch. Having been married to a Green Beret, having been around the military my entire life, I have seen all of this, all of it. Okay. So I was a lot like you, Candace. I was like, I actually don't care. I don't care about any of the background, anything like that. All I know is that this man has made very specific allegations against very specific people with a time and a date. This is very easy to debunk. Very
Right.
easy, right? He actually, in a way, set you up that could have made you look like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are about 2 weeks out, and these people are, again, using random YouTubers, funneling weird, bizarre alibis, kind of quasi non denials through these weirdos, right? And we haven't gotten to the thing, to the just, hey, all you have to do is say straightforward, I was not there. I was not in Conchise County on this date at this time. This is not complicated. And again,
Mm-hmm.
Candace Owens is not a random person, okay? She's just not. She's not somebody with a small following. So people can say, well, they don't have to answer her. Well, that's fine, but they clearly care, okay? And when you have a large following and you get accused, or not even accused, because Candace hasn't accused, but when this comes up on someone's huge following, you answer it. You just do, okay? If you have an easy alibi, you just freaking do. I'm so sick of this pretending like, well, I don't have to answer all this crap.
Right.
No,
It is
actually,
stupid.
you do, okay? Sorry, but you do. Because you guys have been weird about everything from the get go, okay? And everything about Charlie's murder is weird, okay? I think weird is the one word that we can all agree on,
Right.
right? And
Right.
now I have looked into the NAR and Turning Point Faith and just the shadiness, the total shadiness surrounding this organization, which again is not its own organization. It is, in fact, an appendage of TPUSA, which means it is TPUSA. It's not like TPUSA Action, which is its own organization. People don't, I don't think, really quite grasp the significance of that, of TPUSA Faith being an appendage of TPUSA.
Mm.
But so I know all of the like shenanigans that they've been involved in. So when I heard about this originally, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. Now, I don't quite know what that meeting means. I know Harrison wants some very hard, like, wants us to make allegations, and
He wants us to
I,
make a mistake, more than
yeah,
anything else.
I,
Well,
I,
I don't. Hold on.
Let's just
Why
go
would I
one step at a
want
time
you?
here.
Why would I
We're
want you to make a
investigating. Like,
mistake?
I don't
it's
know
like,
if you want me to make a
what do you
mistake,
know?
but I know you have pressed pretty hard for. I want you to make a definitive statement, and nobody's ready to make that.
Yeah.
Actually, here's what I know. These are the things I know. I presented those to you last night, and then you came back at me with what? So you're going to accuse me of being paid for, which was really bizarre to me because I felt like I was pretty patient and not accusatory at all. Regardless, I'm not even going to go into that. But
Well, okay,
no,
I'll go into it for a second. You said that I was pretending to forget that Charlie Kirk was moving away from Israel, and I was saying the weird thing was by me saying, "Look, I don't get what this whole meeting is even supposed to be about, or why it would be suspicious, or how it connects to the assassination in any way whatsoever." And that is somehow extrapolated to be I somehow think that the official story of Charlie Kirk's murder is true. I'm saying I don't
I
think the
didn't
Well, then
say
if
that.
you don't know Harrison, then you can just keep watching the show. Like, you're not required to, like, like, if you're not sure where it's going to go, like, that's kind of the point of just like we're all kind of investigating this together. You know what I mean? We've been crowdsourcing this investigation. We have smaller pieces, and the smaller pieces become bigger pieces.
Right.
Do I know what it means that there are these like little flecks of what looks like there's plastic on the ground of the vehicle that Charlie was carried in after? No. It could mean somebody smashed their phone. It could mean somebody smashed their sunglasses. It could be one of the theories is like, oh, look at the ADSB exploded. I don't know. You're like demanding, what is it? It's like, I don't know. I just got the picture, man. Like, and so I think your energy is just, uh, frankly, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, but like, it's a little lame, I guess is a nice way to say it. It's just pretty lame to like try to put this like unnecessary pressure or make it seem like it's weird that we have questions about why Brian Harpole would be at an Intel base if he's actually there. Like, what do you get? What do you mean? It's giving Ben Shapiro, You never want to give Ben Shapiro. Just
w-
wait. You just want to wait and like see where it lands. If I start making allegations that are factually untrue, or if I don't recant something, if I go somewhere and it ends up being a dead end, then I would understand that energy. Like if like, Erica did hand me her perfect alibi, and I was like, well, I'm not going to say it because I just want to put it out there. But I was actually really hesitant to put Mitch on the show because I wanted, he was like 100% certain it was Erica. He was 100% certain it was Brian Harple. But I wanted to be very careful about how I went about things. And so I think that we just don't appreciate like people that actually care and are standing up to the feds right now unnecessarily being sort of tossed to the wolves by like your perspective, which is like, if you don't have a perfect narrative and it's not neat and buttoned down, then don't speak. Like, no, guys, keep speaking, keep asking questions. And if you're on this, like listening right now, you're going to get things wrong, and that's okay. Just you have the courage to say you're wrong. And that's what I do. I always do that. I just say, you know what? I thought this, it's actually wrong. Let's pivot.
Okay, I mean, I don't know where you're getting this idea that I'm saying don't do research or anything like that. I
Well, what?
am
Okay.
confused why it's been a week of talking about this meeting and I still am not even
You
because
guys are the ones talking about it.
it's
I've been
been
off air for 8 days. Like,
it's been
what kind of
three
energy is
months.
this?
I
Like,
know,
I've
but
been off
I
air for
know,
8 days. You guys
I
have
know.
been on InfoWars calling me a fraud, this, that, saying my husband's an MI6. Like, what do you mean? Why is this a conversation? Because you won't let it go. I had him on the show. That was it. We were investigating things behind the scenes, like, reaching out. Like, he had already reached out to people for allies before I even had him on. Like, hey, this guy said this, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you guys every day are obsessing over it and making up lies. Like, you guys are the reason it's big. Like, respectfully, like, this is the work of you and Alex Jones and Paramount Tactical and Baby Mamas from 2000. Like, you guys made it a thing. You guys, you
Uh,
guys made
As,
fetch
as a
fetch. You know
friend
what I
of both
mean?
sides, can I hop in and mediate real quick with one
Yeah.
statement? Um, because I think, firstly, I think that a lot of people come at this journalism from different angles. Because, and obviously, I can't speak for either of you, but Harrison does more of reporting on what's already happened, and Candace tends to make her career out of reporting on trying to figure out what is the next end of the story. And you guys, you both stray into both lanes. But also, I want to draw the distinction that Harrison has not been making all the same claims as Alex all the time. Alex is definitely a distinct voice from Harrison, and I've always really respected Harrison. I'm not saying that I actually disagree with him on this take, but I do think that this he's not the whole Infowars crew, and the whole Infowars crew isn't Alex Jones. And Harrison's reporting hasn't been the same as Alex this whole time. But
Right.
also, I think there might be a little bit of coming at investigations from different angles from the nature of the journalism that you guys both do.
Yeah.
Okay, but
yeah.
I think we've been pretty fair. Personally, I definitely have been fair as far as like not conflating Harrison and Alex. And for like reasons I can't, because I feel like I've been pretty straightforward about why I think the Huachuca thing is important. I do think that things were happening behind Charlie's back.
Yeah.
We know that he delegated a lot. So even if you don't think like, oh, this is, and again, I actually don't think this was a like murder planning session. I actually think that personally, and I'm going to just throw it out there, I think that something happened in Korea. I think that there were weird things that happened in Korea. We do know that Pastor Son was arrested the day after Charlie leaves Korea. Um, I think that there were some weird things that were going on. And I think that Charlie wanted to maybe step back from the role that TPUSA Faith was playing in this kind of global foreign policy, forward apparatus that his organization was being used for.
And
And we
by the way,
see,
I can tell you guys that like Rob McCoy and Charlie did not love Rob McCoy. That whole speech
right.
about him being his pastor, he had voiced his concerns about Rob McCoy. And so again, the broader consideration here is that Turning Point USA is just telling a lot of lies, and you don't tell a lot of lies. The whole world got behind Turning Point USA when Charlie got shot. Like there wasn't a single
Yep.
person who was not rooting for Turning Point USA on September 11th. Okay. And now we're at a place where it actually feels like the whole world is rooting against Turning Point USA, right? Well, the TikTokers are not liking Erica. The people online are not liking Erica. They feel like, I mean, that, I'm sorry, but are we going to pretend that that whole AmFest thing wasn't just like weird? Like we're popping up tents of like where somebody died. Like, I don't know, that's weird. And so, yeah, let's respect the public that we're recognizing something's off and we want to know what it is that is off. And Andrew Colvett is definitely off. Okay. Like he is like off the chains. There have been just way too many lies, and there would be no reason to lie when you have the whole world on your side rooting for you. Why are you lying?
Well, since you mentioned Andrew Colvett, Candace, if I may jump in,
Sure.
and to address Harrison, and one of the things that I remember that I keep in mind throughout this entire investigation is in an investigation, details matter, but you don't know what details matter until you investigate them.
Right.
And when this, and as an outside observer on this particular story, the Fort Huachuca story, all of a sudden I've been airdropped this detail that one of the top members of Charlie Kirk's security detail is at an Army intelligence base the day before Charlie's assassinated. Now, that's a detail. I don't know what it means. I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if it's important or not important, but that's a detail. That is a definite detail because
Right.
Brian Harple's job is to protect Charlie Kirk.
Right.
That's his job. That's his
Mhm.
job as one of the top members of this security detail is to protect Charlie Kirk, who the next day was assassinated. So, like, this is an important detail. What is one of the top members of the security detail doing at an Army intelligence base the day before? It might not mean anything, but maybe
Mhm.
it means something. What does it mean? I don't know. I have to investigate it. Now, how does Andrew Colvett come into this? I'm reminded of the fact that he told you, Candace, that you and Tucker were on some list and possibly in danger. Well,
Mhm.
so now I'm thinking in my mind, well, maybe he was at some sort of security briefing. Maybe they had some intel that people were in danger. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe that's what he was doing there. Like, I don't know, but
Right.
it has to be investigated. It has to be sussed out. It could mean something. It might not mean anything. But just
Yeah.
just to address Harrison, and I like Harrison. Harrison's been good to me. No problem with him there. So that's what I'm just from my own perspective as an outside observer. I've been airdropped this story, this detail, which has now mushroomed. It's like a big mushroom cloud now for several days. It's run wild, people on all sides fighting over it. It's
Right.
become a thing. And now I have to grapple with this thing. Does it mean anything? Does it not mean anything? How can
Right.
I verify it? And I'm at the mercy of Mitch's recollection. I'm at the mercy of the TPUSA folks, Erica, Cabot, and Brian Harpole. And I'm faced with a situation now where they've turned it into something bigger than it needed to be, if and
Thank
indeed it
you.
is nothing. If it's
Every time.
nothing,
Every
all
time.
they
Like
had
that's
to
why.
do was debunk it. And not only that, but like they could have like slam dunked the ball in your face, Candace, and made
Yeah.
you look silly and stupid. And they left that money on the table.
Right.
And for the people who said, well, I'm not going to they don't need to dignify this, they already dignified this by giving half assed non debunking debunkings. I didn't ask
100%.
them to do that. They did that. They made this more important and relevant than it needed to be. I didn't ask for them to do that. So
Right.
now, as an outside observer, I have to grapple with, like, okay, you made it bigger than it had to be. Like, what does that mean? I don't know if it means anything, but now it's a thing. Now it's a
I
thing that I
think
have
that
to
that
deal with.
is how everyone feels. Like you are voicing exactly how everybody feels. We didn't know what it was going to lead to, and I was like, I mean, I couldn't have been more deferential in saying that this could literally lead to nothing. But like because of this weird prayer and the way it came in, I think that we should follow it. The reaction has now made this feel so crucial, and it again, why you do not need to wheel and deal behind the scenes, Andrew Colvat. And if Erica, as she did, is going to hand me Brian Harpole's alibi, then they care to clarify it, right? If you care to clarify his alibi, then get the rest of his alibi, right? What is the halfway? What is the halfway? Here's his flights for the evening or the late afternoon, but we don't know about 7:30. And I did ask that question, by the way. That just reminds me. I asked that to Turning Point USA when I had the conversation on the phone yesterday. I said, what's up with Brian Harpole? I've messaged. I'm happy to like debunk this, but this guy is certain he saw Brian Harpole. And they said, they told me that there was no, basically, the relationship between Brian Harpole and them had soured. That's what they told me. And they didn't just tell me that yesterday. I want to be clear. They also told me that when I sat across from Erica on the 15th. So there's not open communication right now between Brian Harpole and Turning Point USA. Yet, they did feel it necessary to give his flights for the 15th. Well, if your perspective, and if I'm Turning Point USA and I'm going, okay, well, he's not answering this question, don't you think they should want to know if he was there that morning? Like, shouldn't they be like, hey, like, where the heck were you? You were on our payroll, actually, and you were supposed to be with us, and so now we like require to know where you were. And so there's also this nonstop lack of urgency with Turning Point USA, a lack of caring. Like they almost think like the details are funny. They don't care. I think that's how the public feels. They certainly don't care. about any of this. Like, why else would you have a tent? Like, it's quite morbid. It felt like a seance to see that tent up and people taking selfies under it. And I think that that disturbs people. I think that there has been something spiritually disturbing about a lot of the decisions and communications that have been coming out of Turning Point USA. So thank you, Sam, because I think that you really just hit the nail on the head there in terms of why this suddenly feels very important when we were all willing to accept. I did one episode on this, guys. It wasn't like
I'm not married to
crazy.
this, Candace. I'm not married to this guy. I'm not married to
Yeah.
this theory. Like, if it's nothing, then it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And I still suspect that there's a good chance it could be, there's a really good chance it could be nothing. And I'm going to need really big receipts to believe it.
Right.
But if Brian Harpole's job is to protect Charlie, which he failed at, by the way, like, let's just be real honest, he failed. The team failed. They failed. If I'm TPUSA, like, how did you guys fail this? And if Brian Harpole's attention was split, or he was elsewhere, his head was elsewhere, he was going to meetings elsewhere, he's doing other stuff. Like, I want to know that.
You're right. I totally agree. Myron, I'm going to let you jump in here too. I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me good, or am I
Yeah.
coming in? Yeah, so I'll be very brief here. We're all here for the same reason, right? We all don't believe the official narrative is someone that used to work for the federal government and understands how investigations work. The official narrative has created more questions than answers. And Candace, kudos to you for going out there and trying to find those answers. And I think it's very important that people understand that when you're doing investigations, you're going to go down many different roads, right? You're going to talk to bad informants that might have ulterior motives. You're going to talk to people that are going to give you misleading information. You're going to do a records check here and it might lead you somewhere that was completely not relevant to what's going on. Like, the thing that sucks here is that you're doing this investigation with millions of people watching you, and they're going to, try to say, oh, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. The benefit, right, of being a criminal investigator a lot of the times is we work in the shadows, we do our investigation, we go down many different holes, then we come down with an indictment and an arrest warrant after we connect everything. Unfortunately, right, for you, Candace, you have a bunch of critics that want to sit there and say, well, you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. I think you've done a great job of trying to find the truth, and people are going to criticize and talk shit. And I think we're all here for the same reasons. The official narrative doesn't add up. They haven't been transparent, and that's why people are doing their own independent investigation. And the federal government's failed with being transparent with the people, and the people don't trust the government anymore. This is really an L for the G. So keep doing what you're doing. I know people are going to hate, and I think your heart's in the right place, and you're really trying to find answers here. And yeah, there's going to be, roads that sometimes don't lead where it's supposed to go, or roads that may be questionable. But I think talking to everybody and trying to get the full picture and being transparent about it is the way to go. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, we have a really small team. I think people forget, like, there's four of us, and it's so much work, and we're investigating every lead, and there have been so many that have led nowhere, by the way. I mean, you can imagine you're getting 50,000 emails, and some people just want to write hate stuff. Some people are giving you tips, and we're building those pictures in the backgrounds. We have so many leads that are still being worked on from a long time ago, and we have to get on the phone with people, and we have to ask for verification, and we have to get when we get paperwork, we then have to verify if the paperwork is real, because I don't have expertise. And then I present something and I misspeak and I say E4 instead of O5 or O6, whatever. And the next thing you know, you get 1,000 emails of people telling you like you're an idiot. It's hard. And people also, I think, forget, and this is not like a woe is me pity party, but like, Charlie was my friend. Like, I went through a very real stage of grief. I'm still going through it in many ways because I don't know what happened. Like, there's something that feels very unresolved about it. And he just shouldn't have been taken out like that. Okay. And their anger, which I think you guys have seen that last week or whatever, like, to see people like Ben Shapiro get on stage and pretend they were his friend. Like, you don't know what that does to me spiritually. Like, I just want to fight. Like, I want to physically get into a fight. That is like, it's just not okay. And there's something that is so grotesque about it at its core. There is something that it is so, it's almost satanic, right? I look at politics now and it makes me want to vomit, like, to realize what they turned him into after. Like, they did not view this man as a human being. They did not care about Charlie at all. It was like he either was going to get them a check or he wasn't. And that, even for me, like, the ick I get from Turning Points, like, that man did not like that man. So what are you doing? Is this really just about like who writes you a check and gives, like, they can just buy a friendship with Charlie? Like, it angers me, and I still have to like contend with that anger, that upset, and also trying to, okay, let me divert the energy into this investigation and trying to figure it out. So I do ask you guys to just recognize that, like to recognize that there's a lot going on. And I will always, if I get something wrong, which is what I was open to doing, like I said to Ian, I was like, if you want to send me an email and he has the smoking gun proof that he wasn't even a Green Beret, I will run it and I will own it. But that's not the case. And so it just feels like petty. Like if you're going to use your energy, like we don't need you finding his exes, man. Like we really could use your help. Like
Yeah, I mean, look, professional criminal investigators don't get it right a lot of the times. There's a reason why a lot of cases don't get solved. People don't get indicted, they don't get charged. It's not easy to run an investigation. It's even harder to do it with a million people trying to Monday morning quarterback everything that you do and criticize every single thing that you do. So I totally understand coming from that world myself. So look, you're trying to find the truth. I think you've been good about transparent. Like if you make a mistake, you correct it. And, one of the negatives is you're out there in front of everyone. So people are going to give their
yeah.
opinions, and that's the negative.
Yep, you're right. Ryan, we'll go to you and then we'll go to Diligent Denizen.
Yeah, no, I just want to tell you, thank you, Candace, for everything that you're doing. We all appreciate, at least one person out there that
You
seems
too,
like they want to
Ryan.
find the
You've been
truth.
crushing it. You've been absolutely crushing it.
Well, thank you. And I think that the thing that upsets, I think, most Americans is the fact that you're doing the job that we expect Turning Point to be doing, right? Like this was Charlie's organization, and you're the one out here asking the questions, and they're almost seem like they're just content with whatever Fed slop narrative we get, and they're ready to move on and get the party started and go on to the next event and the next whatever. And it makes me feel anyways like that Turning Point and the amount of people that are going after and attacking you for trying to just find answers makes me think that Turning Point's something much bigger, that it feels like it's a giant money laundering operation, that it's a political machine, and that Charlie was just a pawn, right? That he almost didn't even know everything that was going on within his own organization. It got way too big for one man to follow everything. And some shady shit seems like it was going on behind the scenes. And I think there's a lot of key players that were involved in some shady shit that are more, they're incentivized to just kind of sweep this under the rug and buy the Fed slob narrative because they don't want any attention shined on whatever shady shit that they were doing. And I think that's why Charlie was putting Doge together. And I'll
Yeah.
land it there.
And I got a really big tip on that Doge investigation. I think there was something there. I think if this pans out, and it looks like it is panning out, Charlie discovered that there was a lot of money that was missing. And again, I'm trying to encourage this person to speak out. So again, one of the balls that's been in the air that I've been slowly working on, but I think all of our instincts have been correct. There's a
All
lot
right,
more
there
to
we go. We got it good.
UTI. And there's just been a lot of people that have been basically saying to us, these cheap tactics, to even question anything means that like you have to just accept
Sorry, guys.
everything
I'm
that's
making it work with
happening.
everything.
Myron, you got to turn yourself off, your mute on. I can mute your mic. Actually, that's a great ad. Yeah, so it definitely feels really weird. Diligent, let's go to you, Diligent Denizen.
Thank you. Yeah, what bothers me the most about this whole thing is the lack of curiosity. Like, here we are all citizen journalists. Every single person on this stage right now describes themselves as a journalist in some way, shape, or form, right? There's no curiosity, right? Like, when did we say, well, here's a good example. Harrison, you posted 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk died that there was a credible threat against his life. Has the FBI reached out to you to ask you about that?
No.
Also,
No.
like, are you going to tell us who that was? It feels like that might be relevant now.
Yeah. So in the absence of a rigorous investigation by the agency, we are led to lead this investigation. That is why Fort Huachuca is so relevant. But I was going to ask you. Thank you, Candace. Can you tell us who told you that?
Because
Because
he's
the
dead now.
FBI is not asking you.
Yeah, I mean, the person that told me asked me not to say who they were, so I'm not going to give up a source. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Well, then, in the absence of answers and a rigorous investigation, we are led to do that ourselves. So every credible piece of evidence that we have to follow, every trail should be exhausted before we say, oh, well, this ain't worth it. And I have seen far more energy put into discrediting this Fort Huachuca witness than I have for people actually looking into the claim itself. Like Candace said earlier, she actually called people at the base to verify whether or not the events occurred. Was he there at that time? Where did it happen at, etc. But I see all of these people. It's almost like it's coordinated,
Yeah.
right? All of these people on the same 2 days come out and say, oh, don't listen to this guy. They apply labels. Do you know why we apply labels to people? That way you stop listening to them. Oh, what he says doesn't matter anymore because he's an abuser, because he's
Right.
a fraud, because he's this, because he's that, right?
Yeah.
Far more effort into discrediting that witness than there has actually been into validating the information that he's been given.
By the way, the
That
best way to discredit him is to debunk his story. Like it's like, so I'm like, why don't you focus on this? You can act. Do you hate Mitch? Do you hate who he is as a human being? Do you believe he's a pathological liar? How about proving that something that he told us was a pathological lie? Like, doesn't that just make sense? Like,
zero convictions. All of the
yeah,
people saying that he was a fraudster, that he was an abuser, whatever. I couldn't find one record, criminal
no,
record
there was
of
no
him being
conviction.
convicted.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
too,
I
right?
couldn't find it either. They were showing no convictions. It was he said, she said. I mean, just like full character assassination.
A
And like,
one-sided divorce court that
yeah,
he didn't get to tell his piece in. Isn't
it
that
was very Me
interesting?
Too. It was very Me Too. I'm sorry to say it. And like when grown men are doing the Me Too shit, I just have no energy for it. I'm just like, all right, guys, like, cool, thumbs up. Like, I'm glad you found like his classmates in middle school or whatever. But like, could you use some of that male energy towards actually, like, if you think he's all of these things, the best thing to do would be like help us prove that he's lying on the thing that we care about, which is the Charlie Kirk assassination, you know? And no one has thus far done that. And he has not changed his story. So I am inclined to follow this, especially because we now know that Erica and Andrew Colbert and Brian Harpole do care enough to offer up, um, some parsed alibis of sorts.
But they didn't refute being there. I think, is a very important point. Not one of the people, including Congressman Amidei, with his statement, actually directly said, "I was not in Arizona or at Fort Huachuca at this time on this day." Not a single one of them have denied it.
Yeah, and I did. I don't know if you were on earlier when I said that, like, when Mitch first contacted me, he never said Mark Amity. He gave a description of the man, and he said it was a congressman. And then I gave him, faces, and he was like, "This looks like the guy, like Mark Amity." I think Mark Amity is the only one that at least attempted to give an actual time frame that was relevant, and he gave the footage. And I do think it kind of looks like him. It's not definitive, but like it does kind of look like him that's sitting in the chair when someone gave me the time point. So I do want to be at least like he gave us something. You know what I mean? But regarding the two people that he contacted me about, Brian Harpole and Erica, I find it strange that they went behind the scenes when they had a direct communication with me. Like, if you care enough, why wouldn't you just text me and I could shut it down immediately? Like, I don't.
We just lost your sound.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm still trying to understand like what Andrew Colbert is doing. I don't understand it. I don't understand what Andrew Colbert is doing. I really don't.
Well, obviously they care about the public perception of what's going on here, or they wouldn't give these half-hearted third-party alibis that don't really stand up under scrutiny,
Hmm.
right? Because they do care about the perception. And the argument is, well, they don't owe you any answers. They don't owe you any answers. That's right. They don't owe us any answers. But also, they can deserve the scrutiny they get in return for not giving those answers, right? The suspicion that comes with that's part of not giving those answers. So it's a two-way exchange. Go ahead, Harrison. I see you trying to go ahead.
I totally agree with you on that. I do want to let me add this person, the speaker. We can do about like 10 more minutes here because I think that we have covered all of the main points. And I think now everyone understands why this Fort Huachuca story suddenly matters, even though it was definitely not a focal point of this investigation. I do think that there is something here. I will tell you that, like, if I was to bet on it when I first had Mitch on the show, I was at 50-50 on whether or not he saw who he said he saw. Um, Brian and Erica in particular, and Cabot Phillips as a third, which he felt, I think when I asked him a percentage on Cabot Phillips, he was like 90% sure or something. Now, like, I would probably put it at a lot higher, just based on the public reaction. It doesn't make sense to me, and Andrew Colbert is what tips me over the edge. I think it makes no sense for him to go behind the scenes when he could just texted me and said, "Hey, I heard you covered this. Just wanted to give you this. Here's where Erica was," and so you could update people. That doesn't make sense to me. And I've heard that they are spending a lot of money on an anti-marketing campaign, if you will. I am trying to get receipts on that to see if that's true. And if that does pan out to be true, then I think we have our answer. I just added you, Suleiman. Did you want to say anything, or did you just want to listen?
Yeah, I did want to say something. Hopefully my mic is working. Can you hear me? Because
Yes.
I'm just in an Uber. Oh, brilliant. I guess my question is this: that when it comes to, by the way, I first of all appreciate the work you're doing, and also I think one of my friends is on your team. But that being said, one of the questions I have is, in terms of Huachuca, how does someone prove the negative? And what I mean by that is, I can't always prove where I am at all times.
Mm.
So, for example, how do you prove that you're not somewhere if you don't somehow have some kind of photograph you take on the day? Like, how will they be able to disprove where they were? And the reason I ask that is because you can ask that about anyone. For example, Sam, I don't know where Sam was when Charlie Kirk got assassinated. So, will he be able to prove it or not? We just don't know. So, I guess the question is, how do you prove the negative?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is like just answer, right? Hey, I was not here. That would be like a nice strong start. I'm Brian Harpole and I was definitively not there. The second thing is you would just be so surprised at how much your phone has. If you were there, then Brian Harpole would have had to have taken a flight to Fort Huachuca relatively early on the 8th or early on the 9th. I mean, he could, if he's awake at that time, this is supposed to be like a guy who's doing security. He's got to be up early. How quickly before you roll over in bed and text somebody about something, like whether it's like breakfast, whatever it is, you're texting, and that is creating a timeline of everything you're doing all day. Like if you asked me what I was doing today between, I don't know, 4 and 6, I could look through my phone and see who I was texting at that time, and we'd be texting about something relevant to what we were doing or where we were about to meet up. There are so many ways that I think you could show what you were doing, but I think the first thing would be just to answer. Like, it's a pretty straightforward, like, I don't see the upside in Cabot Phillips not answering. There's been so much innuendo about him. People are talking about like his pizza tattoo. Like, I don't think the energy of Ben Shapiro, I've been wondering what that's about. And so like when I saw it, like when he said Cabot Phillips, I was like, whoa, that I did not expect that turn. Because I had sent him so many people that like in Turning Point that I thought could have fit the description. Like maybe it was someone on the security team, and he was like, no, no, no. And then with no context, he was like, Cabot Phillips was the guy. And I don't know. I find that to be interesting that he was off. Now Cabot could just very easily just be like, I was on vacation. Like that's 7 days, right? I mean, he was off air from the 4th until the 11th. And hey, he's got the wrong guy, wrong memory. And I'd be like, okay, cool. But that's a long time, right? That's a very long time that he could send us something or anything. So yeah, I think there's a million ways, but it would start with just denying it. Like it would be very simple, especially because it's gotten so big. And I want to be able to do that for them. I want to debunk it. I want it to be off of people's minds. Like if Cabot was just like with his family on vacation in Scotland, I want to be like, hey guys, like Mitch we're looking for someone that looks like Cabot. You know what I mean? And so we can focus somewhere else. Or Erica has airtight. Here's where she was. This is what she was doing, and there really are just like, there's just another blonde who was on the base that day. I think that would make a lot of people feel good if they just did that.
And Candace, if they hadn't already
So
weighed
it
in,
so it makes sense.
that would be one thing, right?
It makes sense what you're saying in terms of, if you were to provide a text, what you're proving is that you texted someone. But or I mean, they're not going to give you evidence that they took a flight to Fort Huachuca. So I
No.
guess, because if they did it or they didn't do it, they wouldn't provide it either way.
Yeah.
And I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, I get the logic behind it. Like, first of all, the smart play would have been not to say anything. After he started giving evidence to that Green Beret, it
Yeah.
now becomes the onus is put on you. So I understand it. I'm on your side on that perspective.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, let's take Erica Kirk as an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say she wasn't there on September the 8th, but she
Mm-hmm.
hasn't got any digital footprint. Yes, she can deny it. That's one thing. But like, no one's gonna believe her, even if she was to deny it. So how do you actually provide evidence that you weren't there? Because if you text someone, that's not evidence, because you could text from the place or from some other place. It's actually having like some kind of digital footprint
Yeah. So
somewhere
Erica's a
else at the
perfect
exact same time.
example because they did. Like you might not have been on earlier, but I reached out to Turning Point again because, like I said, I'm not interested in chasing rabbits. That like I want to actually know what's real and what's not. Yes, Sunday. What's today? On Sunday, I think around 1:00 p.m. I got on the phone with them. I reached out on Sunday. On Saturday, got on the phone with them sometime after mass on Saturday. I mean, on Sunday, pardon, and they were like, hey, like, yeah, she was like making dinner with like organizing or making dinner with Charlie. Like, we're going to send you a message of like between her and Charlie speaking. And I was like, great, amazing. I will literally update Twitter right now and say like Erica was making dinner with Charlie. And they send me a message, but the contact was blacked out. So I went back obviously and I was like, hey, like, the contact's blacked out. Like, I don't, this could be a message between like me and George for all I know. And I was like, do you just mind like just sending, like, I know Charlie's number obviously. So just like, show me the contact. And they were like, oh, we blocked it out because it's like a pet, I don't know, like a nickname that she has for Charlie or whatever. And she just didn't want you to see it. And I was like, okay, well, you can just like change the contact name and just send me like, just send me a video of you opening it so I can see Charlie's number and tell my audience, like, this is confidently a text chain between Charlie and Erica. And then they just said, look, it's Sunday. I think it was like 1 o'clock or something. And she's busy with the kids, but we'll get you that. And so I waited. It's now been obviously more than 24 hours. It's been like 30. I was yesterday at 1 p.m. Now it's 9 p.m. on Monday, and they haven't sent it to me, like just the number so I could see that it was Charlie, but I'm waiting. But there's a perfect example of how they could just easily show it. So I'm waiting for that. And if I get it, I will clarify to people that she was making dinner. And I also said to them, like, I don't need to show people the message either. So like, don't worry about like his, like, whatever you call him getting out there. Like, I'm happy to just like see it. And I think my audience trusts me enough that I would just say I saw it. So I'm still waiting for it. But that's a perfect example of how it could be done.
So that text message you're referring to,
Mm-hmm.
are you saying that it would indicate her specific location? Like she'd be like, "Oh, guess what, honey? I'm downstairs cooking, I don't know,
Yeah,
roast
like
chicken for you." So
I'm recapping here, but it was pretty much like, hey, parking the car, like, be up there for dinner, or like, and is dinner ready? Like, yeah, it's on the table now, right? Well, if they have that and it has the date of September 8th, which it had the date of September 8th, and that was the communication, like, dinner's on the table now, like, I'll be right down or something like that. Okay, great. And they just blacked out the contact. So obviously I can't say to you guys, like, it was a conversation, it could have been a conversation between me and Mel. It could have been, so I was just like, could you just send that without the contact blacked out? And so that's what I'm waiting for. But that's a perfect example because like you can't go back in time and make that communication with Charlie. Like, who else would Charlie be messaging? Like, if I can just see this is Charlie and his wife and it said like love you or something like that. So it would be weird if Charlie was randomly texting that to somebody else, but I know his number, so they could just show me his number.
And just one other question while I've got you here, and I think it's really important because I've been covering this like from the beginning, generally speaking. And you basically have like the Fed position, and then you kind of have your position, which is you've gone through a wide range of strands and wide range of avenues. And I guess a lot of people kind of sit somewhere, maybe in the middle, maybe a bit towards you, maybe a bit towards the Fed position, whatever it may be. And from your perspective, and I kind of know what you're going to say, but just as a question, from your perspective, like where do you sit with the people who don't fully agree with maybe all the lines of investigation you're
Yeah.
doing, but then do question the Fed position? Like, I think a lot of people feel like there is this kind of idea that you either have to have the Fed position or you have to totally agree with you or Ian Carroll or whatever it may be. So like, where do you sit with that?
No, I appreciate everyone that's investigating. If you're a person who is trying to convince us that Tyler Robinson on a rooftop by himself with no help took a shot from a 30-06 and like, Charlie ate vegetables and stopped the bullet, like, you are just such a useless human being. I really never want to, like, I never want to see you. I don't want to follow you. I don't want to see a tweet from. I want you to just be off the internet. Like, that would be great. But beyond that, if you accept that something's wrong, obviously, and like there's got to be more of the story, then great. That's why there is so much variety on the internet. And I do think there is a level of this sort of like crowdsourced investigation. So like, I don't agree with everything that, Ian comes up with. He doesn't agree with everything I say. Like, I don't agree with everything Sam Parker tweets or Myron says. But the point is like, I'm sitting here and I'm pulling together a picture because so many different people are able to pull together different strands. And I personally can say confidently that I sense that we are putting a lot of pressure on the authorities. They seem to be coming undone. There is definitively something here, and they were banking on our ADHD. Like, they were banking on, we're going to throw like a memorial. We're going to make it amazing. We're going to give them Trump. They love Trump. He's going to throw red meat. He's going to say, we're going to make America great again, and we're going to move on. And it actually seems to be getting bigger and it's snowballing. And so something has to give. And so I'm grateful for every person, no matter where you stop on the train. Like, if you're like, I believe you on all this, but I don't believe this. Like, I mean, that's really what Morgan Ariel just said. Like, I don't like Mitch. That's fine. Great. Um, But let's keep the pressure on the feds and remember that like we are all united in recognizing that we live in a really effed up world. Tim Dillon did he made it comedic, but also like it was like dark comedy of like we feel like we all now recognize we're kind of being ruled by like people that are into children and people that traffic children and people that traffic weapons, and they're kind of wanting us to just like be like, oh, but like the new iPhone just dropped. Like something this can't go on like this. Society cannot go on like this. If we have a society that we don't protect good people, like we don't protect decent human beings like Charlie Kirk, we don't protect our children, we're too fearful to even speak and say something, which is, I'm sorry, but we live in a world of remarkable cowardice because of what I view to be a shortage in testosterone. I find so many men to be pathetic. I really do. Like Charlie Kirk was assassinated in broad daylight, and you're just gonna like accept the Fed slap. I have no use for you. Like I have no use for you. You're losing the society because you're still allowed to walk around breathing. Is what the issue is, and you get to call yourself a man. Like why am I taking all these bullets? Thank you to the men who have stood up for me, but like for the men that are just like going along to get a paycheck, like I don't need you ever on the airwaves ever again. I really don't. And if at the end of last year, between Jeffrey Epstein and Charlie Kirk, if something did not stir in your spirit and make you go, "What the f is going on?" We have no use for you in American society or any other society, frankly. And that's how I feel. So. Thank you to everybody who has jumped on and had this conversation. Again, I appreciate everyone. Harrison, I appreciate you. I think we do have different styles in this, and I hope that you at least hear my perspective and my heart in this. And no, I'm obviously not going to let Fort Huachuca go. My husband's on an MI6, and yeah, I don't care about Mitch's baby mamas. And beyond that, we will. I'll be back. I'm off air all this week, and I'll be back next week. And I have even more explosive stories for you that we have found. We've tracked Tyler Robinson even more on that day. So it's just going to get crazier. Thank you guys.